Sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, M.D.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AM Impact on Your Health. AM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AM Impact on Your Health is heard every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and of course, where we do encourage you to call in to join in. Today, well, we're back. I had a number of repeat shows. Hope you enjoyed them. I was just looking over that list as I was coming to the airways this morning. Back from summer vacation, Myrtle Beach, you know, what a place, and can return. And if any of you have ever been there before, you know how wonderful that place actually is. Of course, I think this place is wonderful too. I'm back with you and enjoy the opportunity to be with you today and pick up the gauntlet and start running with it again. We do so with a special message in mind today. Well, let's put it this way. What were you doing back in 2001? 2001, when the saga of this family hit our airways, and it was literally a weekly installment on what was going on with the Navarro family, in particular centering around young Thomas Navarro, who had a brain tumor, a malignancy, and literally was running from an omnipresent government and FDA who were dictating what kind of treatment Thomas would have. Well, we took a liking to and really developed a strong bond between ourselves here in Pittsburgh and the entire Navarro family. Today we're going to rejoin our gentleman, head of the family, Jim Navarro, talking about some up-and-coming news with respect to Thomas, actually the release of a documentary on that child's life, and in particular how it led up to his death, which occurred on November 19th, 2001. We'll take you back down memory lane, some of it pleasant, some not so pleasant, but looking into the future, what you can do. Politically, this issue is as live now and as omnipresent now as it was back then. At least I think that's going to come out in our conversation today with Jim Navarro. We'll be with him right after that first break. If in the course of our discussion with Jim, you want to call in to ask a question or to make a comment, that number, of course, as always, will be 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. The saga of Tom Navarro, our discussion today. I hope you enjoy it. The calendar is filling up. We will be with, finally, James Roberts will be with us on Wednesday. And, of course, he's the author of the book appearing on my desk, looking at it right now, Reverse Heart Disease Now. Many of you know about the book. Many of you have the book. Anyway, the gentleman, in collaboration with another cardiologist, named Dr. Steven Sinatra, I think we've saluted many times here. Finally going to bring him back. It's going to be at least 2 years since we had him here, and I'm looking forward to that on Wednesday. What else up and coming? Well, we have another guest scheduled for the 30th. I don't have the information with me, so we'll wait on that. Should tell you, I intend today to reestablish some contact with Cass. Now, on Friday, we did a repeat show that we had done with Cass Ingram way back on July 21st. And he was talking about how to recover from a toxic summer. And he promised he would be with us about a topic that I think is a staple item. It is certainly one that has intrigued me in my career as a medical doctor, and that is the treatment of hypertension. Anyway, he wrote a book entitled Natural Cures for Hypertension. Promises to come and be with us. Caught him out of the woods way back on the 1st of August. he has reemerged from the woods. I've got a little note here. This past Saturday, and I'll give him a call today. We'll see if we can get him scheduled to come aboard and visit with you on a discussion regarding hypertension and the treatment thereof with natural cures. Okay, I want to spend a lot of time with Jim today. I want to give you an opportunity to relive some not so pleasant days, some cases, some very humorous days. The family actually came through Pittsburgh, stopped in, and spent some time with us right at the height of all this controversy. We're going to rehash it, go over it again, and then talk about this unique documentary coming out here in October. Be right back in a moment with Mr. James Navarro.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. You become confused about how best to manage your health. It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instruction, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you were looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years.
Okay, we're hooked
We
up.
offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Go away.
Blessings of Fruit of the Spirit are now formulated into a delicious whole fruit puree product rich in antioxidants and minerals. Your health is more than just a test result. It's a balance of physical, spiritual, and emotional factors. You work regularly to strengthen your faith, but Fruit of the Spirit help cover your nutritional needs in a convenient and cost-effective ounce a day. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. Fruit of the Spirit, 5 servings of fruits and minerals with no added sugars. That's 1-800-442-3793 for your good health. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. Heard here on KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you today on a Monday version of the show, returning home version of the show. So nice to be back with you. And I guess it's very appropriate that as I return with you, we bring a special guest to you today, one who also returns back to you, Pittsburgh. Sort of adopted favorite son of Pittsburgh, and his entire family adopted in a similar fashion, all centering around the controversy and devastation brought to that family back on just at the turn of the year 2000. Anyway, young Thomas Navarro with a brain malignancy and the difficulty of the federal government, FDA, omnipresent on this family. We followed them. Well, we'll try to retrace those steps in a moment. We're with the head of the family now. A lot going on in the Navarro family then and even now. We're with Jim Navarro. Let's say good morning and welcome back, Jim. Good morning to you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jim. And Jim, I have really looked forward to this day and having a chance to speak to you. We've spoken a lot off air, talking about some up-and-coming things with respect to Thomas, a documentary. We're going to get to that. But I hope to be able to spend some time to go back. I hope it's not too painful for you to do that. But, back when we first met, it seems as though I was talking to you from phone booths, behind buildings, running on the run. You were on the lam, so to speak, because a government was telling you what you needed to do. You there, Jim?
Right, right.
So
Their idea of what we needed to do would have meant the imminent death of our son in literally a matter of days or weeks.
relive that for us just as a moment. Talk about when your young son Thomas was diagnosed. What were the initial treatment steps that were proposed? What did you really pursue? Who decided that this really wasn't the treatment that Thomas wanted to have? And then the run, on the lam. Tell us a little bit about that. Relive those days with us, if you could.
Well, back in September of 1999, Thomas had become ill, and the unusual part about that was, at that particular time when we were living in Tucson, Arizona, there was an unusual strain of Asian flu going around. I think it was a bird flu, if I recall. And at that time, the unusual part about it was that it was so severe that small children were being hospitalized in critical conditions. In fact, some of them had passed on as a result of it. So at the time, Thomas was displaying symptoms that at first could be confused with that flu, the nausea, the vomiting, the diarrhea, the weight loss. But what made it different was the fact that it had gone on for as long as it did, which was approximately 21 days. And in that time, he lost 17% of his body weight.
Oh, boy.
And that's pretty dramatic for a 4-year-old child, small and bursting. So his pediatrician was unable to see him at the time, so I bundled him up to my doctor. My doctor took one look, got on the phone, called his doctor, and said, "You need to see this child right now." So I had bundled Patrick, his younger brother, up, who was under 2 at the time, and called my wife at work, said he at the doctor. Autumn seems to think something's terribly wrong with him, and she paved the path for his doctor to see him. So we went, and I naturally was sitting in the Suburban with Patrick, who was asleep when we arrived. Donna went in with Thomas, and about 15, 20 minutes later, there were these big, beautiful Spanish carved doors on the doctor's office. I saw one fly open and hit the brick wall like an explosion, and heard Donna scream my name and pull out.
Oh, boy.
So I went running to her and picked her up to put the tears that our baby's dying. And it hit me like a wall at the time. And we went in and went back and got Patrick. I'd left him in the Suburban, but it was only a matter of a few yards, so it's not like I left him in the next city. Brought him in, we talked with the doctor, and she said, I've called the hospital, I'm making arrangements. This was on a Friday afternoon. And of course, all the good doctors had gone golfing or home for the day. So they had to round up the team to see him. We entered about 7 o'clock that night, and it wasn't until 2 o'clock the next morning that the doctor walked in and simply said very curtly, "Well, your son has a brain tumor. We're going to go ahead and check him in. We need to do surgery right away. I'll talk to you in the morning." Smiled and walked off. And I just looked at Donna and disbelief, almost with a grimace, and I said, "You're kidding, right? This is our son. Our children are in perfect health." And the next morning is when the weight of it set in, or later that day, I should say. It's already 2 o'clock Saturday morning. And his condition was so serious that his surgery was scheduled for Sunday morning at 7 a.m., at which time they removed the tumor. It was a 4 by 6 centimeter tumor in the cerebellum. It was medulloblastoma.
Medulloblastoma, okay.
And they immediately wanted to do chemo and radiation. At the time, in the naivete, thinking, okay, well, I know this is going to be rough, but I don't know if it's going to be right. So I turned to my wife, who had been a combat medic in the Army, and I said, "Are they right or are they wrong?" She shook her head and said, "Not for our son." it will damage him severely. And so that's when I started doing the research, and she kept chanting the mantra, we're not going, we're not going. And so when we went to the first appointment, as you remember, I showed you the consent form. They said he would have nausea, vomiting.
Oh, I remember that consent form. Yeah.
And then what happened was, the doctor left. About 10 minutes later, came back to the room and said, "Oh, Dad, I forgot." And he grabbed the form out of my hand, put it back on the original with the carbon and said, "He'll also have hypothyroidism, cerebral necrosis, loss of memory, loss of IQ, loss of hearing, and, as you know, the plethora of side effects." And I just looked at him. I obviously can't repeat on the air what I said. Let's just say it was colorful, and it's like wrapped back in. You knew, and you lied to me to get the consent. You knew if you wrote it down, I would never sign it. And he just dropped it, turned around, and left.
Walked out.
By then, Donna was furious for the simple fact that I stayed in the room long enough to sign it. And when I showed it to her, she just shook her head. We need to go, and we need to go now. So that's when we made the decision to go to ground and get out, because you see so many other families doing, like the recent case with, Danny Hauser, the case with Parker Jensen back in Utah, and many others throughout time. They were not going to use our child as an experiment, to settle their poison.
Now, of course, Thomas having the surgery, which was probably life-sparing, at least for that moment, still looking and anticipating, look, what are we going to do about this? We know that the surgery was, let's say, successful on the one hand, but certainly not curative, because the size of the tumor probably already had the possibility of metastasis already. I don't know. I guess you'll probably tell me. But you then did what? You decided you were going to look for other therapies, non-toxic, or what were the next decisions made by the family?
Well, it was interesting. The next thing I did, because I was the recent recipient of a computer, of which I will admit on the air I am a technophobe. I believe in paper and pencil. It's much safer and doesn't require batteries. But I had gone on the internet and started researching, and first of all, for a long time I couldn't even pronounce, let alone spell. It's cancer. So what I basically did was I looked it up and looked at the correct spelling. And the very first site I landed on was a chat room. And I started reading down the various dialogues between folks who were either patients or the parents of patients, and so on. And the one central term kept coming up, Dr. Brzezinski, neoplastic, any neoplastic. So I started to research him, and then it came across the website, at which time I found the patient group, and that's where it began. And over the time, Thomas did probably about 16,000 pages of research.
Now we're talking about Dr. Stanislaw Brzezinski, a renowned oncologist. He is an oncologist, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
And, of course, he hails from Houston, Texas. Boy, I've met him on many occasions. Certainly, you're part of his family. But be that as it may, let's stay up a bit, because we're going to talk about seeking alternative treatment as an adult and seeking alternative treatment for a child, because I think you had to get blasted with the dichotomy of how you're allowed on the one hand to do it as an adult, but you're not allowed to do this on behalf of a child. Could you get into that a bit with me?
Yeah, that's the part that, to be brutally honest with you, the hardest for Don and I, in fact, both of us being veterans. We had no legal right in this country to choose the treatment for our child. And most people don't realize that in the United States of America, even today, that unless you become fully informed, you don't realize that really how little rights you have. If your child is terminally ill, you as a parent do not have the right to select your doctors or your treatment for your child. And to make it worse, if you do not agree with whoever is treating your child, they have the right to go to Child Protective Services, file charges against you for medical neglect and child abuse, take your child away from you, and treat it. And here's where the rub really kicks in. If your child passes away, you have no legal right to sue the doctor, the pharmaceutical company, the hospital, or Child Protective Services, if they quote-unquote acted in the best interest of your child. And that was always my rub. Now wait a minute, folks. I taught him to read, I taught him to write, I taught him to speak, I taught him to ride a bike. The top 2 pediatric neurosurgeons in the world did his surgery, his first and second surgery. So if I'm smart enough to pick those dentists, how is it that I'm not smart enough to pick his follow-up therapy? What did I get into? Stupid? That's my question.
Well, it's a rhetorical question, and it certainly was a question that turned out to have real ramifications because you dug in at the behest of your child. You and your wife dug in solidly, and you literally became fugitives because the CYS system, the governmental system, they came after you with full force and vigor, did they not?
Yes, they did. And in fact, here's another irony too. Now, I'm one who, coming from multiple generations United States Marines, I'm not one that is afraid of conflict. But the tragedy is, as we could discover, if you choose to, quote-unquote, raise against established medicine, the doctors can and will take away your ability to stay at a Ronald McDonald's house. They can get Make-A-Wish to cancel your wish, as they did with Thomas the day before he was to board a plane and go to SeaWorld and swim with the dolphins in Florida. Ronald McDonald House wouldn't let us in the door because we didn't have a recognized illness. Now, what makes medulloblastoma recognized? Radiation and chemo, or Dr. Brzezinski, or both, or none? You see the prejudice there, the discrimination?
So if you don't follow a recognized treatment, you don't have a recognized disease? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, correct. Because basically what it boils down to is most people don't realize radiation chemo has never been approved by the FDA for pediatric application. Never. Okay? And quite simply because you cannot approve a poison as a drug. And I think that Dr. Benjamin Rush said it best once upon a time. Most people don't know, but he was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence and also the Surgeon General for George Washington's Army. But he said it best. Unless we put medical freedom into the Constitution, the time will come when medicine will become an undercover dictatorship. And that's what we have today.
And that's what you fought through back then. You identified Dr. Brzezinski. By the way, had a chance, hopefully, to speak with him early on after you made that decision. And then if my recollection is anywhere near, well, certainly nowhere near perfect, but although you had discussed it with Dr. Brzezinski, you were then this fugitive running all over the country to ultimately try to get to him to get that treatment. Am I right about this? My recollection?
Yeah, basically what we did was, and this is the interesting part that a lot of people don't realize, Dr. Brzezinski was very upfront, very friendly, very, very cordial, and he said, Mr. Navarro, I'm sad for your son's diagnosis. However, I'm even more sad to inform you that I'm unable to treat him because according to the current edict, Thomas has to first go through radiation chemotherapy and fail and have recurrent tumor before he is allowed to come see me. And I said, you can't be serious. He said, unfortunately, I'm very serious. So I said, well, Dr. Brzezinski, this is how this is going to happen. I'm coming anyway. And I'm coming for the sake of you've seen him, you've given him an assessment, and you officially, in writing, turning him away, and the reason you are turning him away. So basically what I was doing was creating the paper trail. And that's where the battle began, and it continued. His original diagnosis, he was to live approximately 4 weeks, and through many things that we researched and changed in his life, he lived 26 and a half months.
Now, part of the predicament, and I don't know if the public appreciates this, but let's bring it up, is that by the time Dr. Brzezinski had evolved by many measures as a great cancer expert in neurological tumors, so much so, in fact, that he won in court against the FDA. I can't tell you how many times. I bet you can, though. And ultimately, the reason why you were in the predicament you were in is that the federal government, or the FDA, finally recognized Brzezinski's treatment as an acceptable alternative only if all other treatments had failed. That was the caveat. Am I right?
That is correct. Basically what they were doing, and I mean even the simple of understanding explosiveness, they were hedging their bets. They had to make sure. It's like being the #1 premier boat builder in the United States. Some little guy comes along and starts building a boat, and the government says, well, you can sell your boat, but first you have to put a 12-inch hole in it. Then you can go ahead and set it. They were deliberately sabotaging the results. They were deliberately making sure that, in fact, he would not be able to succeed by so damaging the child there was no hope of recovery. And if you go to the website that we're currently working on right now and you go to the bookshelf, you can actually pull up this book by Tom Elias, which is great.
The book about Brzezinski's treatment, correct? Yes, I saw it on your website. By the way, we should mention your website, cancerbusters.us, correct?
That is correct. That is correct. And it's still a work in the making. We're still kind of modifying it, adjusting it, because I still leave the webmaster, and I'm working faithfully with a dummy guide on how to build it. But it'll be up to speed and keep up with all the news and things that we're doing and continue to do. In spite of Thomas's passing, we made a commitment that we would never stop fighting. And so we stay in the fight.
Well, you certainly have. To sort of bring that entire epic to its unfortunate conclusion, Thomas did, after you had fled so many different venues, having the full participation of congressmen and politicians, you were invited because of the notoriety of this case. Certain audiences with certain politicians that gave you a vantage point that very few ever get to see. They fought for you. Talk to us a bit about that. And ultimately, I got to say, folks, he did get that treatment. The child did get to Dr. Brzezinski. Bring us up to speed on how that all occurred, if you could.
Well, we started push for medical freedom, which we did through a bill that we introduced before Congress back in 2000. I believe it was, again, I'm getting older, so it's hard to remember.
Yeah.
3677, the Thomas Navarro FDA Patient Rights Act, which basically returned the rights to the parents to select doctors for therapy for their child. We fought vigorously, spoke several times before Congress. And, of course, we were snubbed by the Democrats, specifically Henry Waxman. Had nothing to do with the fact that 90% of abortion came from the pharmaceutical. It was just the luck of the draw. We will be reintroducing pill in January. We're going to try once again, and I'm going to keep at it until I draw my last breath, to be quite honest with you, because we still do not have medical freedom. Parents still do not have the right to determine their child's well-being. And Lord knows, if you haven't caught wind of the fact in the last 2 years that the government is doing too stellar a job, then we're in worse shape than we thought.
Well, would it be safe to say that even though after exhaustive efforts finally led you to initiating the treatment by Dr. Brzezinski, it was just that the case had moved too far down the road to be able to get the result that you were looking for? Is that fair?
Absolutely, yes. Because what happened is, the journey with Thomas led 26 states in this country, to include Pennsylvania, where we met.
Yes.
Because we were out at Geisinger. And, it got to the point where we did everything we could as far as his diet, his exercise, supplements, and so on and so forth, and we were doing very well, although we knew the history of glioblastoma, that at one point it would go recurrent, which it did. Then we went to New York City, to Beth Israel, and Dr. Epstein did his surgery. He had gone recurrent. It was at that time that we were told, in fact, this was insisted upon, it wasn't even about our rights. And interestingly enough, we do have some parental rights in New York, but they told us absolutely there was no way that they would allow him to leave the hospital without chemotherapy, at least chemotherapy. And so they gave him the classic 4-drug cocktail. In the process, overdosed him. And he then developed leptomeningeal-sarcoma, which is a cancer created by chemotherapy.
The chemotherapy.
But when they started counting tumors, they stopped counting symptoms and told us to take him home. At that time, we went straight to Washington, D.C., and met with Congressman Dan Burton, who was the chair of the Government Reform Committee. He, in turn, had a very, shall we say, spirited conversation for 5 minutes with the powers to be at Health and Human Services. And after listening to his persuasion, they agreed verbally to allow him to go to Brzezinski's clinic in Houston. So within 45 minutes, Thomas, Donna, and Patrick were on a plane to Houston, while I had to stay behind because I was being speech before Congress. And then I joined him after the congressional hearing. He began the antineoplasm then, but in reality, he was the chemo determinant.
Sure. It's an odd set of circumstances that really, by having received the chemo that you didn't want to have, it allowed you to meet the criteria so that Brzezinski could give him the antineoplasm. Isn't that really a strange twist of fate?
Yeah, that's the rub, right?
Isn't that the rub, that you had to subject your son to this terrible chemotherapy, and which put him in dire straits, but by doing so, it met the test of what the FDA said had to be met in order for Brzezinski to use his antineoplasms. It just defies all sense of logic. Look, we got some people dying. Do you mind taking a question or two?
Yeah.
Come on right ahead. You're with James Navarro. Go right ahead.
Good morning, Dr. Courtney.
Hello.
I had a question for your guest.
Sure.
My heart goes out to him and his family. I wanted to know if you can comment if under Obama Hussein's, medical plan that we're all going to be, I guess, under the auspices of, does he think if something happened similar under Obama's plan that it would be, circumstances would be even worse? In other words, there would be more, less health freedom and more forcing of him to do the medical protocol.
What do you think about that, Jim?
Absolutely, there's no question, and I thank you for your call, because in the last week we've already seen it. They're already deliberating over certain types of cancer therapy and saying, well, it's not economically feasible, therefore we're not going to allow it in. I stay up with that very, very closely. And this new Obamacare is going to be the kiss of death for all of them, regardless of whether they've got cancer or stuffed toe. And it is absolutely time for America, and I hate to be so blunt, to grow a spine and take their medical care back. It's not about playing Mother May I with Uncle Sam. It's about telling Uncle Sam who he works for, and if he doesn't get the message, hand him a pink slip to explain how it works. It is up to us. And I do go back to my point to Thomas. I taught him to read, write, speak, and be polite. Why in God's name am I not smart enough to pick his best care? The American public, sadly, has been spoon-fed for so long. They just blindly accept. But it does give me hope, like this caller I just question for. If there are people out there that are taking an active interest, that are doing their due diligence, it's no different.
So you think the Obamacare, because you answered that really abruptly, you seem to immediately know.
No question in my mind. It's a mess. And yes, it's dangerous and will be in much worse shape. In fact, it's going to make reintroducing the bill even harder because they're absolutely try to sell us down the river and convince, oh, we don't need the bill. We've got it all knocked with Obamacare. Yeah, right.
Very well.
That ain't going to happen. But again, I'm up for the fight, so bring it on.
All right. Now, look, some things, a lot of time has passed. I think let's move because some really great things are happening now. And it really is what prompted your phone call to me. And boy, the moment I heard about it, I said, oh, absolutely, I want to bring you on the show because as it turns out, this entire story is now documented in film. Please tell us how that occurred. Tell us how this film was made. Tell us about the name of the film, when it's going to be released. It's your son's story all over again, but with a twist, actually, to hopefully make things better, not worse.
Well, the title, first of all, I think it's any, but to be honest, I really don't care. It's called Cut, Poison, Burn.
Cut, poison, burn. Geez, I wonder what they're talking about there.
Because those are your only options according to the medical world and the government. Anything outside of that is considered heresy. It's an 88-minute documentary in full.
88 minutes long.
There's over 1,000 hours of film that we used to make it. We started documenting Thomas's journey from almost the very beginning, all over the country and other countries of the world. It has been accepted with open arms at the Mill Valley Film Festival, where it'll be during the 7th to the 17th of October, and they've actually just recently given us the showing dates, which will be Friday the 15th at 6:30 p.m., which is considered prime real estate of the film festival, and again on Saturday, somewhere between 4 and 4:30, they'll show it again. It's going to be marketed and released by Next Out, which is NEHST, but pronounced like Next. And the actor Peter Coyote is doing the voiceover for it in America.
Doing the narration.
What that's going to do is show the insanity of the cancer industry. All the promises of hope, all the deception, the good, the bad, the indifferent, conventional, non-conventional. It's going to cover both sides of the story, the history of the cancer industry since the war on cancer was declared. And then down through the center will be Thomas's journey, basically the spine of the film. And they will be able to keep up with that, the progress of that, through the website. And then as soon as it's done with this Exposure Film Festival, then it'll be out for national release. And what I'm working with the folks right now is to get a initial premiere in LA, New York, and Houston, and then it'll Lord willing, put the theater. If not, we'll work on making it available through the website.
Now, my conversations with you were interesting because evidently there have been some viewings already of this documentary at various sites for whatever reason, how people get a chance to see these sort of screenings. And I was real interested to note that although I think it'd be safe to say that people, don't remember, it's 10 years ago. They may not remember the time, nor the players, nor your family, but what happens is, to the person, they're walking out of this screening really worked up. Is that a fair statement to make?
Angry.
Angry.
Angry, because in the case of one particular individual, they said, now they have changed the laws, right? And the response is, well, no, it's still the same. You mean the poor child suffered this way and died this way, and nobody did anything about it? And that's what got it immediately noticed by the film festival, and they wanted it there. And the Mill Valley Film Festival, by the way, is on the top 10 film festivals in the world. So we're very honored to have it there.
Absolutely, and
hopefully we can wake up the rest of the world.
And as so often is the case, film, screen playing, and the like brings many different things to a relook by the public from a different aspect than they could back then. I think this may be what you need to get that bill finally in front of Congress again, don't you?
I hope so, because to be quite candid, I'm going to apply my own little blitzkrieg, and that is once the film has been out, once the DVDs are available, I'm going to send each member of Congress who has to support the bill a copy of the documentary and say, watch it and learn. Just be real short and simple. You know, it's interesting, Dennis, when I was before Congress the first time, in telling them the story of my son's flight, always I got a smiley little assistant that said, well, you realize this is Washington now, so unless you can put it in page to page and be brief to the point, it won't get read. Okay, well, I'll keep it real simple. Watch and learn. That takes the lesson page.
Very good.
Hopefully we'll get through.
Folks, you're with Jim Navarro today. As you can see, quite a story, reliving it, and having it to be retold finally in the form of a documentary coming out here October 7th to 17th. Am I right about that?
Correct.
At the Mill. Where is this? This isn't in my backyard. This is in California, isn't it?
Mill Valley is just outside of
Outside of where?
San Francisco.
Oh, outside of San Francisco.
Northern California. Correct.
All right. Look, we're going to take a short break, folks. When we come back, you may have some questions for Jim Navarro. He certainly has some more comments for you. This was a heck of a time in the life of Jim Navarro and Thomas. Let's see what we can dredge up here with the remaining 15 or so minutes. 412-825-6262 is the number to get in on this. 412-825-6262. We will be back in just a moment.
Want to help your family eat healthier? Instead of learning to disguise tofu with wondrous ways, how about some real nutritional power? If your family has the typical American palate for fries, pizza, and burgers, giving your family the blessing of good nutrition is a struggle. Fruit of the Spirit is the answer for your family's nutritional needs. Fruit of the Spirit is an all-natural whole fruit puree made from fresh fruits native to the Holy Land with alkalizing minerals. Fruit of the Spirit was 5 years in the formulation, the work of a team of top nutritional experts with independent science to confirm its antioxidant power. 1 ounce a day provides the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits and minerals. Fruit of the Spirit is convenient, affordable, and delicious. Even your picky family will sing the praises of Fruit of the Spirit. Give your loved ones the blessing of good nutrition. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. You become confused about how best to manage your health. It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough that no matter how vividly you follow the instructions, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you were looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, M.D. is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AIM Impact on Your Health. Here in this Monday version of the show, and special guest today, as you can well admit to, a gentleman that you, if you're a long-time listener here, have met many times before. A span of time has passed. A lot has passed before him. He comes to you today with really an important message. I hope you're grasping it. I know that at the time we first brought the message to you, it came across very powerfully. It comes to you even more powerfully now in the form of a documentary to be released here October 7th to 17th on the life of young Thomas Navarro, who succumbed from medulloblastoma and other tumors. November 19, 2001. Am I right about the date? That is the date. Okay. I know, and we're saying that with this remaining time, if you want to call and ask a question or make a comment, the number to do so is 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. Now, Jim, I noticed, I'm bringing it up again because, boy, we're hearing so much about this health care bill, Obamacare, and you took a nanosecond to respond to the phone caller when it came to Obamacare and whether or not things would be better, be worse, and you automatically said they're going to be much worse without hesitation. Do you want to take that for another moment and get into that some more?
Sure, quite simply. Basically what it boils down to is we're going to go from absolute zero freedom of choice to controlled medicine. They're going to determine who gets treated and what they get for their treatment. And the bottom line is, it's all going to be about how much change they have in their pocket at the time. The government will determine your fate. There's no way around it. They've always going to own the break. They've already started immediately targeting cancer treatment, different types of cancer. Now, when they're starting with the most popular cancers like breast cancer, and I guess use the word popular, you know what I'm referring to.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Very frequently found, yes.
The notoriety because celebrities. Oh my God, this celebrity has breast cancer. That celebrity has breast cancer, and now we hear about Michael Douglas with throat cancer. This last week, and it made me absolutely chagrined to hear. Oh, but with the wonderful responses to radiation and chemo, we're sure he's going to do fine. Yeah, right. Been there, done that. Have the T-shirt. And what people don't realize is with Obamacare, you have no choice, zero choice. In fact, your greatest concern now is, do I even qualify for what's left over?
Yeah, I mean, isn't that the real issue here? Because whereas before having chemotherapy shoved down your throat, whether you wanted it or not, seemed to be the message. I think what you're saying is, as to whether you even get the chemo, is now the message, because the government will decide whether you can have it. And I think the point you're trying to make is, you as an individual are not. Your decisions are completely meaningless with Obamacare. If they didn't mean much before, they absolutely don't mean a thing now.
That is correct. Dennis, you have to remember back in the day, 2000, okay? In the year 2000, chemo was $42,000 to $43,000 per cycle. That's $2,000. Now, 10 years later, and they wanted him to do 10 cycles. So that's, what, $420,000 to $430,000 of chemo? Now, let's do the math here. If 2 classrooms, let's figure an average of, 20 to 25 kids,
Okay.
are diagnosed every day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year. Do the math. How can they afford treatment? They have sent us into poverty already, and our children, and I'm probably not too far off, probably our grandchildren also. And now I do have grandchildren by my eldest son. And they're born poor. No wonder they come out crying. We need to take our rights back. We need to restore. Well, we've never had medical treatment. Now is the time. I mean, it's with very little to create a tea party. We need a medical version of it. And we need to step up quickly before it's too late. Otherwise, it's going to be medieval. It's going to be someone walking down your neighborhood with a cart and bring out your debt because you couldn't afford to get treated. But in chaos, there's always opportunity. And I see this time also as, okay, you're telling me I don't have money or you don't have the resources for cancer therapy? Gosh, that means it's time for me to look at alternatives. Bingo. We birthed a new idea. We birthed the new ways of treating enabled enemies.
Well said, well spoken. You're with Jim Navarro. We've got a few minutes left. By the way, if you want to get in on this as we signal our time out of here in just a little bit, 412-825-6262 is the number to get in on, 412-825-6262. Jim, you're going to be a busy guy here coming up in September. What's your schedule like? Where you're going to be out there, I would imagine, for this the launching of this film.
Well, that's the plan right now. We're waiting to hear back, obviously, from the festival because they have what's called the hospitality committee, and what they do is they prepare to bring key people out for the showings, and obviously in this case it would be the family because our son was the spine of the film. Also, I'm going to be very busy with doing radio like today and television. And really, it's not an issue of bringing awareness to the film. It's bringing awareness to the fact that here 10 years later, almost 9 years after the loss of my son, it's still status quo. Nothing's changed. There's been no effort, no attempt to think outside the box and find something new. So we need to revisit the subject. We need to reintroduce the legislation. We're still actively involved with families. Like I said, I had an opportunity to view about 20 minutes of the documentary while I was in New York meeting with Diane Sawyer regarding the Danny Hauser case, trying to help mediate for them. To be brutally honest, I had to walk out. It was so overwhelmed, so emotional.
Oh, I'll bet.
Voiceover and final editing. So it's going to be
hard.
A rough ride because we can walking and talking and speaking for 88 minutes. We have to do it because every day 1,440 kids die of treatment, not the disease, treatment. And we've got to bring them in to the pediatric genocide being thrust on us by the medical community.
Amen to that. Hey, we got a caller here. Come on in the store. You are with Jim Navarro. Go right ahead.
Hey, good morning, Dr. Courtney. Good morning, Jim. I remember your story well, and I grieved with you when Thomas died. Myself, in 1999, I had a new wife, just had gotten pregnant. We found out it was twins, and she came down with something called plasma cell leukemia, which is like a 1 in 10 million, very rare, very aggressive cancer. And at the time, I initially had her convinced to go see Dr. Brzezinski, go see Dr. Carreau for coleus toxins, something, because I had one of those Ralph Moss reports sent to me, FedEx, the day after we got the diagnosis. And it was very clear there was no help at all with the chemotherapy with her kind of cancer. And what she went through the next 6 months, I mean, the very first dose of chemo put her into a state of neuropathy that she suffered so tremendously from. And they proceeded to torture her to death. To the end, at the end of the 6 months, she looked like something that you saw at Auschwitz when the troops went into the prison.
That's
camps.
right.
It was that brutal. And I always like, why would they do this? They know. I showed them the papers, the Ralph Moss report. I said, show me. I tried to get them to tell her the truth. And the reason why was at the end of the 6 months, the bill was $600,000. And it's just amazing to me that this is still going on 10 years later. We've done everything. I've done everything I can. Faith and Dr. Courtney, Faith and I've done the radio show on another station on Sunday mornings, and we bring this subject up very often. And
yeah, your story's well known to us here, Dave, and I'm sure that when you hear Thomas Navarro being brought up, anytime it's brought up, it just conjures up the whole thought processes of your own in the battle that you faced, and you can empathize with this family faced. You're sort of akin to one another in that respect. And
first of all, I'm very sorry for your loss. I can definitely relate to watching a loved one go over a period of time. But there is hope, and that is that you and I can join arms and build the resistance. Resistance is not futile. You just have to get loud, which you will get to breathe. Well, have to basically bend them to our will.
Yeah, we stand at the cliff and keep the lemmings from jumping over. Well, we're going to be hooked up with Mother Earth News, which has like about 25,000 listeners in this area alone.
All right.
I'm old enough to remember.
All right.
Like I said, I'm on grandchildren.
Yeah, amazing. Well, Jim, we got bongos in the background. That signals our time out of here. So nice of you to spend the morning with us. We're going to bring you back, of course, as time moves on, and bring us updates on what's going on here. So.
People are welcome to the website as well as email me through the website if they have any questions. Feel free to contact me.
Okay, cancerbusters.us. Until Wednesday, folks, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney with Jim Navarro saying so long for AIM Impact on Your Health.
AM Impact on Your Health is sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, MD, Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located in